Everyone, CodeRabbit just released their CLI, and in this video I'm going to show you all about it. They are also today's sponsor, but I think it can be a real game changer for your workflow because you're probably generating a lot of code with these AI coding agents, maybe with Claude Code or Codex, and you've probably noticed that a lot of your work is basically reviewing the code that the AI generates. So the people behind CodeRabbit, they have the vision that the bottleneck is basically moving away from generating the code to reviewing the code. And with CodeRabbit now in the CLI as well, it becomes much easier to review your code. It's much easier not only to review it, but actually fix it as well if it detects some issue. Okay, so in this video, I'll show you how to set it up and why we want to use it, some of the benefits that you get, and how you can use it in combination with these AI coding agents. So if you've watched my previous videos with CodeRabbit, you know that we can already use CodeRabbit in the IDE, right? So we already have an extension, for example, here in Visual Studio Code, but of course you can also use it on GitHub. So it's already working in the places where you are already working as well. All right, so let's actually get started installing it. They display this snippet here on their website. It's CodeRabbit.ai/CLI. And you can open up your terminal app, or I will actually stay inside Visual Studio Code for this video. They also have integrated terminal here. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and let's just run it and see what we get. All right, so when you do that, you will see that it will start installing it. Now you need to do a couple of things to make it work. So they recommend that you restart your shell here. In Visual Studio Code, probably best to just restart VS Code entirely just to make sure we are restarting here properly. And the second thing is to log in with CodeRabbit. So I already have an account. If you don't have one, feel free to go ahead and sign up for CodeRabbit. You can find a link in the description. If you run this from the terminal, it will open up the CodeRabbit website and you can log in with your account. All right, so then once you've done that, let's see what else they recommend here. So how it works is, well, basically they describe how to work with this in the flow of an AI coding agent. So I will show you that in a second as well, but we can actually also just use it standalone. Actually, it makes sense in some workflows to do that as well. So basically we can invoke CodeRabbit with these commands. So we can say CodeRabbit -- plain. Basically the standard mode here, it's going to do a detailed analysis of your code, trying to find issues that are in your code, and then it will also come up with some fixes. So we can just run that if we want. If you are trying to save on tokens, they also have prompt only here to be a bit more efficient, a help command here. Note that they do recommend running commands from the Git repository root directory. So if you have a project open, it's probably best your current working directory is actually in that root, right? So that the Git repo matches up. Now this is not the whole command. So you can see here, they have as an example to give to your AI assistant to run it as CodeRabbit review plain, right? So for example, Cloud Code or so that they can actually invoke that command and then immediately work with the suggestions that CodeRabbit gives them. But before we do that, let's actually just try running CodeRabbit by ourselves. So we can also just run CodeRabbit review -- plain. All right, so I'm going to run this command. Let's see what we get. All right, so here we have the CodeRabbit CLI running here. You can see it has detected a bunch of changes, and I can press enter here to go into review mode. Let's actually press enter. All right, so now it's going to review my changes. We just have to wait a minute or two. So it's just going to go through our changes so that we ideally can catch any issue before we even commit. But if you're building out a feature, for example, and you know it's been a while since you reviewed the code, sometimes also good to have like a checkpoint where you're just going to do a quick review before you continue, so you're not building on shaky foundations. All right, now while it's reviewing, it will list the issues that it comes across right here. So you can see it just found another one. So there are about 6 issues that it found now. And now actually the review is complete. So it found issues in 2 files and I can navigate between them. If I press enter here, it's going to open up the issues for this particular file. So this is the API endpoint in my Next.js application. So it found a security issue here. So if I press enter, it will actually have an explanation here. So the impersonation feature allows anyone to inject system messages, and it suggests here to add authentication and authorization checks. So it comes up with a div here and it looks good to me. Actually really important catch here because anything with security we want to. Now at the end here, it shows a prompt to fix it with AI. So you can see we have a couple of options here. We can apply this suggestion ourselves by pressing A. And if I open up the file, if I do that, it will try to deterministically apply the div here. But if it's a more complex div, then I think it's going to be better to just hand it off to AI again. So I can also just press C here, and now it's copied to my clipboard. So if I just paste it here, there is a prompt now. So you can see I have a prompt here. I can give that to my coding agent. So for example, here in Codex, I have the Codex extension. I can give it a prompt right here, and I can just say, hand it off to Codex, and Codex will fix that issue. So that's one issue that it found. So let's see what else it found. It found a memory leak. Okay, so something with the buffer here. And yeah, really nice find here as well. And another critical security vulnerability. So some really important catches here by CodeRabbit. And then on the page component, it also found a hard-coded API key. That's absolutely not what we want. We have multiple security issues here, and also something here with dangerously set inner HTML, always something to be careful with. So some really nice catches here. And if it's a simple div that they recommend, I think you can try applying it with A here, but for most cases, you actually do want to hand it off to an AI coding agent again. Right, so I can go through the issues here and try to fix them before I continue developing my app or before I commit. All right, so now I'm manually handing it off back to Codex, right? So you can see Codex here is still making the change. I will actually just stop it here, but we don't need to do that. We can actually use it in conjunction with your AI coding agent. I will go out of here, escape, I will close out of here. Now with the install command, they actually show you an example prompt here. So this is what you can try when you're using one of those coding agents. So you just tell the coding agent, run CodeRabbit review -- plain. This is what we just ran ourselves. So if I just copy this part from the second sentence, and now I want to use, let's say, Cloud Code, let's say. Right, so now I'm using Cloud Code, and I could say something like, please add more AI capabilities to the canvas. And now I'm going to paste that suggestion they had, run CodeRabbit review. So it's Cloud Code that's going to run it. So then it's going to run that command. CodeRabbit will try to spot any issues. It will then hand it back to Cloud Code. Cloud Code can then continue iterating over that. And then it will hand it back to Cloud Code. So you don't have to manually copy paste it to your coding agent. And actually I will tell it to, after you finish implementing that, run that CodeRabbit command. Okay, so I will press enter here and let's see what it can do. So Cloud Code will now first try to add some capabilities to the canvas, building out the feature set a little bit. You can see here the list of tasks it's going to do: examine current implementation, design, the second step, and then the step after that will be to actually apply the feedback. So it's already finished the first one. Okay, so Cloud Code is actually already making edits to the files. These will then be reviewed by CodeRabbit in a second. All right, so now you can see it finished implementing the feature. Now Cloud Code wants to run a command, and that's the CodeRabbit command. So CodeRabbit will make a review, will do a review, and supplies Cloud Code with some suggestions, and then Cloud Code can apply the feedback. Okay, so let's go ahead and approve the command here. So you can see it's running now, bash CodeRabbit review plain. So unfortunately during recording, I couldn't get it to work on my own computer, but it may already work on your computer. So I recommend that you try it out for yourself and see if it works. All right, now we can see the options here with cr-help, and it will show you some of the things that we can do here. So we used plain here. So that means the output is going to be in plain text format, non-interactive. However, we saw that it was actually interactive. So I think it's just something that they will fix in the, and I think then it will work with these coding agents as well, because I think they run into an issue with interactive mode. Same with prompt only, right? So then we only get those prompts for the AI agents. Actually, this is how I would probably run it in conjunction with a coding agent. Now we can also specify what to review. So maybe we don't need to review the files that we already committed, maybe only the uncommitted file, right? And we have some other options here as well. Now, in the meantime, I recommend that you also check out their extension here in the IDE. So this gives you a really nice overview as well, by the way. So for example, I can also just review changes here in this UI. You could say, oh, actually, I just only need to review the uncommitted changes. You can pick the branch and your account. Now in the account, by the way, you can view some more interesting information. So I'm actually in the dashboard here on the CodeRabbit web app. So here we have repositories. So if you want to use CodeRabbit on GitHub, for example, we can connect a repository, and then when you make a pull request, CodeRabbit can leave the suggestions on the GitHub website as well. So check out my previous video I did with CodeRabbit if you want to see how to set all of that up and what you get. Now, one of my favorite features with CodeRabbit is actually that it will learn from your preferences. So if CodeRabbit notices that, for example, we only want to use that zinc color shade from Tailwind CSS in a particular repo, it may decide to create a learning for that. So over time, it builds up the style for a sense of the preferences that you or your team has for the structure or the code. You can actually also integrate with some of these other apps. So if you already have a lot of information about your project on Notion, for example, or some other app, you may actually want to bring that into CodeRabbit so it can really hone in on the style and the preferences that you have. So I would say give CodeRabbit a try. Very easy with their CLI. You can find a link in the description. In any case, I hope it's helpful for you. And thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.